Ionica was a domestic telecoms provider based in Cambridge that operated between 1995 and 1998. The company was started in Cambridge in early 1991 by a team led by Nigel Playford, who had become familiar with the technology whilst working at Scientific Generics, who also ended up involved in the project. The Ionica system used a microwave transmitter in order to provide the local loop, therefore avoiding reliance on British Telecom for this final link to the consumer. In simple terms, wireless access technology bypassed BT's local wired infrastructure. The technology known as wireless local loop was developed in partnership with a company called Nortel. By 1993, Ionica had obtained £100 million to finance their operation, and launch was planned for 1994.
Our market is the ordinary person in the street. 96% of this country gets its telephone line into its house from BT, and 85% of the country has no choice about it. You've got to go to BT. We're providing the ordinary guy in the street with an alternative for the fixed service in his home. In addition, we're providing telephone services to small businesses. There are 3 million small business lines in the UK, and again, they have to go to BT whether they like it or not.
Ionica's objective is to build a national telephone company serving well over 1 million customers within 5 to 7 years of the launch of that service, and to create a brand in the marketplace which allows people, or which results in people believing that we offer very high standards of customer service, lower cost operation, and features that our competitors don't offer today.
However, by the end of 1993, Ionica had to admit that the service wouldn't be launched until the first quarter of 1995. Nigel Playford said at the time that he was continually having to restrain expansion of Ionica because he never had more than 18 months of cash available, and often less. In 1994, Ionica reached the point of having only 30 days of cash left and considered closing the business. The team succeeded in obtaining further private funding, but funds again ran short in 1995. By November 1995, the launch date had slipped to March 1996, but the service didn't actually start until May 1996, and then only with limited coverage in East Anglia. Despite this, the company succeeded in presenting a positive message to potential investors and obtained a further £300 million to fund further expansion. The company floated in July 1997. At its peak, Ionica was valued at over £1 billion, the first Silicon Fen trading company to reach that value. This looked great on paper, but market conditions happened to be strong at the time, making Ionica look more appealing. The company's initial aim was to take 20% of the domestic market with offers such as multiple ringing tones and a free second line. Ionica could have used any access technology, but decided that the only way to bypass BT's network quickly and cost effectively was to use wireless, and developed a proprietary system operating in the 3.4 GHz frequency band. Portions of this band were used by the Ministry of Defence, but was licensed to Ionica to provide network access. They were allocated a total of 30 MHz of radio spectrum. This meant that each network could be rolled out by locating base stations in areas where there was the most demand. Each subscriber had a fixed terminal in their home or office to which they could connect phones, fax machines and modems. Ionica had ambitious targets to both develop the technology and to roll out a network of base stations, as well as installing and operating a national network. This naturally needed substantial development resources and financial backing, both of which, as you'll see, were insufficient for the task. Initially, there was a huge demand for the service due to BT's monopoly at the time, which meant high line rental and call charges to customers. Not only that, Ionica promised 2 phone sockets which allowed the possibility of using the phone and the internet simultaneously. A tower was put up in each community the system served, and at the customer's home was a panel antenna. However, the technology used proved to be limited, with heavy rain and local radio transmissions interfering with calls. Thunder and lightning caused a buzz on the line, and the biggest problem of all was trees. The site surveys conducted before the rollout of the service were completed in winter when there was no leaves on the trees, so by summertime the network was crippled. The leaves obstructed the line of sight path needed to the base station and caused a lot of coverage problems. Despite the technology having been used with great success in remote areas of Canada, it proved to be unsuitable in the British urban setting. In particular, the technology used the spectrum at 3.5 GHz, which limited line of sight range to the base station and was narrowband, which meant it couldn't provide broadband internet access. The antennas were developed by Symbionics, who supported Ionica's in-house engineering team. Nortel made the base station microwave amplifiers and IF equipment, and the base station baseband and digital side were developed by Scientific Generics, as was the network management system. The service management system ran under most versions of Unix, used an Oracle relational database, and could support the billing of a maximum of 70 million calls per day. The radio channels had a capacity of 64 kilobytes per second. By 1997, signs that Ionica was in trouble started to appear. Expansion plans were put on hold in an attempt to improve service and add much needed capacity in existing markets such as Yorkshire, the Midlands and East Anglia. By March of 1988, the company was looking to bring in an outside investor and shortly after failed to agree terms with existing investors for the £300 million debts already accumulated. By August of 1998, Ionica had failed to find a strategic partner, and despite strong assurances that cash resources of £45 million would keep the company solvent until January of 1999, many observers predicted its imminent demise. There were two contributing factors that led to the failure of Ionica. Firstly, network rollout was slower than predicted because of base station capacity limitations and a complex and expensive subscriber survey and installation process. Secondly was Ionica's realization that revenue growth was never going to match the company's plan. Their targets were so much higher than their results, and they soon saw that it was impossible to raise further finance using its senior credit facility, so it cut its losses and placed the company into administration. On Thursday, the 29th of October 1998, the administrators were called in and were informed the company had a book value of £305 million, with a prospective realisation value of £8 million and a cash balance of £11 million. The following Monday, the 2nd of November 1998, the administrators made around half of the company's 1,200 staff redundant. From December 1998 onwards, Ionica's 62,000 customers were gradually migrated to British Telecom, with special prices being offered to support their move. In the meantime, BT supported Ionica financially, allowing customers to continue using their telephones, which was quite ironic. The service finally ceased on the 28th of February 1999. The former Ionica building, which was constructed in 1994, can still be seen on St John's Innovation Park in Cambridge, adjacent to the A14. Today, you can still see the relics of Ionica in certain areas. Antennas can be found in places like Sheffield and Derby in quite large quantities, and they often come up for sale online.